are here with Jake and Shea Borup. My friend Shea, we went to beauty school together actually, years ago. We did it like in high school. Shea, I was actually thinking the other night after we've been trying to to schedule this. And so randomly I was thinking about beauty school, and I think we did like a contest of how long we didn't wash it, like our hair. Do you remember doing that?
I don't even want to remember.
But because all we did, it was so boring. Like when there was no clients and stuff, that we just washed each other's hair all the time. So I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think that we went
Oh yeah.
long periods of time. I think it was just like if you went like the whole day without washing your hair, it was a big deal because we just sat around and like washed each other's hair
Oh yeah.
when it wasn't busy.
That's
So
funny.
yeah. So I was just like randomly thinking about that. But okay. So go if you guys wanted to start with tell me a little bit about yourselves and like where you're from, just give us a little bit of background, and then we kind of get into your story a little bit.
Go ahead.
Um. Okay. I am Shea Borup. This is Jake Borup. We grew up in Mesa. Um. We've been married for 9 years. We have six
Awesome.
kids between the two of us. We're a blended family. I had two. He had two. We have two together.
Awesome.
Um.
Is that do you guys is it how is that being like a blended family at all? It does it work out well? Has it been
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah?
They were so young when we met that they have just grown up together. They were 3, 4, and 6 years old. Um, and they get along great, and it's been awesome. So
That's
having
awesome.
the two kids together just kind of like completed our family. It felt
Yeah,
like there was a piece of everyone in those last two kids that kind of bonded us
totally.
together. So
Totally. That's awesome. Okay. So grew up in Arizona. Where'd you guys go? You too, Jake?
Yeah, I grew up in
Arizona?
Mesa. Shay and I actually grew up about a mile from each other.
Oh,
Went to the
nice.
same junior high, went to the same high school, but never really crossed paths. Which it's funny because we've shared stories about certain experiences, certain places we went to, and she's like, "I was there too," and I remember that. And so, even though we weren't quite high school sweethearts, we still feel like, even though we've been married for 9 years, it feels like I've known her for a lot longer. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we both grew up in Mesa. I grew up in Mesa. I went to school at ASU, played baseball there, and then
Oh, nice.
after baseball, kind of moved my way down to the southeast area to Gilbert, Queen Creek, and then
Hmm.
met Shay, and here we are. So
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I'm so glad you guys are here. So glad we finally get to do this.
yeah, it
So,
should be fun.
Jake, yeah. So, this is a pretty amazing story. Why don't you guys start with Jake had, yeah, just go ahead and go ahead and start. And I want to hear it all.
Okay. Um, so a couple years ago in 2022, the end of 2022, I suffered a widowmaker heart attack, which pretty much changed our lives for pretty much ever since then. Um, I had been experiencing a little bit of chest pain, but just thought it was COVID, thought it was a sickness, especially when I'd go work out. And I've always been a pretty active person,
Yeah.
always ate pretty well, and always try to take care of my body.
Yeah.
And so it started early October. Shay and I had taken a trip up to Montana, and we went on a little hike, and it wasn't a difficult hike. But yet, every 50 yards or so, I'd have to stop and take a break just because I felt like my chest was tight. I couldn't quite get a full breath of air, and it felt like I was just, out of breath. And Shay was making fun of me, like, dude, you don't have to stop for me. Like, I promise I'm not that out of shape. Like, you can keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is for me, actually. So that was weird. And then, as time went on, a couple weeks later, I just noticed it was getting tighter, and I just thought I was sick, and I thought I had COVID. Again, this was 2022, so the COVID era was still kind of going around. And I'd had COVID previously, and so I kind of knew that that was a symptom of it. Every time I started working out, I'd have some like maybe I couldn't quite get a full breath of air and feel like I was always tired. So I'm like, I'm just sick. Didn't think much of
Yeah.
it, and then it actually started to subside a little bit, and so when I would work out like the week before, it wasn't as bad. So I thought I was getting better. And so I didn't think much of it, didn't think I needed to go see any medical attention or put a ton of focus on it. At the time with work, we were super, super busy, just getting a lot of our year end stuff wrapped up. And so, as most kind of quote tough guys are, we just didn't have time to
Right.
go to the doctor. So,
Right. What do
looking
you
back, that
do?
was a huge mistake. But what was that?
What do you do? Sorry. What do you do for work?
I sell solar. So, we sell
Oh,
solar
cool.
panels. So,
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go
um,
on.
yeah, so basically at the time, like I said, we were super busy. I didn't think much of it after the fact that it started to subside. But the week that it happened on a Friday. And that Monday or Tuesday, I noticed it was starting to come back. Wednesday, it was getting a little bit worse. And then Thursday, I noticed that it was pretty tight. And Thursday night before bed, I remember laying down in bed and it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest, which
Mm-hmm.
is clearly a telltale sign. But I just didn't think it was a heart issue. I certainly didn't think it was heart failure. You know,
Right.
always being active. I thought maybe I had a lung issue. And I even told Shay that night that, hey, if things don't get any better, I'll probably go see somebody tomorrow, which I had said
Right.
before. And she was probably like, yeah, sure.
Thursday, he
Sounds
had
good.
finally said
Right. You're
he
just
was,
saying that. Yeah.
yeah, Thursday. Monday he said he was going to go to a doctor. Then it kind of subsided. When Thursday he said, I think I'm going to the ER today after my appointments. And then he was driving home and he's like, hey, I'll grab the kids from school. Like, what about the hospital? He's like, oh, I went away. If it's back tomorrow, I'll go. And then he never said anything until Friday. Then Friday came.
Friday.
Yeah. So Friday morning, we had talked about kind of our split family. Well, at the time, it was still my day for my kids, but why did they go over to their mom's?
That we had you had agreed to switch days for something random
Yeah,
that
there was something coming up. I don't remember what it was, but randomly, I didn't have my two kids. So we wake up Friday morning and we end up going to the gym together, which is not what we do. I usually will leave a little bit early because I have to leave early to get to work stuff. And Shay will usually get there about 8 when the kids care open. And so I was usually done by 8:15, 8:30.
well, you
So
slept through
Yeah.
your alarm, which is just not like him. So we didn't have our kids. These are just part of the little things leading up that are, if you want to call them tender mercies. I don't
Yeah.
like miracles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't have two of the kids. I did have my two oldest, and obviously the two we have together. Jake normally takes my oldest to school. His school starts earlier. He slept through his alarm and did not get up, which normally he would take him and go to the gym, and I'd meet him there later. He slept through the
Mhm.
alarm, so I took my son to school. Again, just another weird thing where I come back and he's awake. I'm like, I'm going to go with you today in the same car. That does not happen. So just those little things to foreshadow, you know.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I end up going to the gym with Shay, and as I started working out, now normally I would get on the stairs for 20 minutes and just kind of crank out a good cardio session before I start my weight training. And um, about 30 seconds, 45 seconds into it, my heart started hurting, and it really felt like I couldn't take a deep breath. I started sweating a ton, so I get off the stair stepper and I go into the locker room, and I'm just sitting there waiting for it to kind of go away. And my head was just sweating like crazy. I'm like, man, something's wrong with me. And so I stayed there for 5 minutes, and of course it goes away. And I think, okay, maybe it's going away. Maybe that was just something weird and funky. And it never happened when I did weight training. And that particular day, I was doing some upper body workout, and the minute that I started doing my upper body workout, it came back, and that just never happened. So I text Shay and I'm like, hey, something's seriously wrong with me. I need you to take me into the urgent care, to an emergency room or something. And she's like, okay, right now. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go get the kids. And as I walked over to the kids care, it just was getting worse and worse. It was not going away. And this is probably 9:15 in the morning, and I get into the kids' care, and at this point, everything's starting to get a little fuzzy. It's not very sharp. Like I'm just kind of like, where are my kids? Can you grab my kids? I gotta go? And people are we found this out later. People are coming up to me and going, "Hey, are you okay? Like you just don't look right." And if, I mean, clearly, from a person who's not having those things go on, I was definitely in distress. But
Right.
at the time, I'm just thinking, something's wrong with me. I'll go get it figured out. So I grab my kids and I text Shay like, "Hey, I'm heading to the truck," and it's just my two boys. My at the time, I think 4 and 1, maybe 3 and 1. I don't remember, but
3 and 1.
um, so they're super young and kind of more difficult to kind of wrangle up and get in the car. But I run out to the truck and I put them in the back seat. I shut the door and then I get in the passenger side. And as I'm sitting there, I can tell that the lights are like my vision is starting to go out. Like it's just slowly starting to like go out. And I'm like, this ain't good. So Shay finally gets in the car and she's like, "What the heck is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I need you to get me to the hospital as soon as you can. Just drive." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, okay." And then I don't remember a ton about the car ride. I just kind of remember, I remember passing out, and I do remember telling her like, "Hey, if I pass out, like you need to make sure you get me to the hospital. Stay calm. Like it's okay,
Right.
but just
Right.
understand that like I'm probably gonna pass out." And then I kind of remember waking up 4 or 5 minutes later. We were at the. I remember where we were. We were turning left to get on the 24 to head to Banner Gateway, and that's pretty much all I remember. And then I remember waking up again right before Banner and thinking to myself like, I feel okay, like I actually feel fine. And then obviously I wasn't. There were some issues there, but as we pull into the hospital, I told Shay, "Hey, just drop me off in the front, please. Like I'll just walk in." And when I got out of the car and I started walking, the pain started coming back. And as soon as I get into that emergency room entrance, there was probably, I don't know, 10, 15 people in there waiting. And there's like this little makeshift desk that they had because, again, still kind of COVID time. And I just remember yelling, saying loudly, like, "My chest is hurting so bad. I need some help." And then I kind of just remember like falling to the floor, and that was it. And then 15 minutes later, I remember waking up in a room that didn't really seem like a hospital room. It seemed almost kind of like an office with just like a little like bed looking thing, like almost like an exam room. And there was like 15 assistant nurses, physician assistants, whatever they are, doctors. And then one of the doctors that was coming to help me, and my shirt's off and they've got all these wires and everything they're throwing on me with stickies. And I was like, "What is happening?" And he's like, "Well, buddy, you're having a heart attack." And I'm like, "What? A heart attack?" And I remember thinking to myself, like, heart attack will kill you. Like, am I going to die? And I asked the
Right.
doctor, like, "Am I going to die?" And he's like, "Well, we're trying to, make sure that doesn't happen." And that was the last thing I really remember. And then that was on October 28th of 2022. And then the next thing that I remember was waking up on December 5th of 2022. So Shay can kind of share her experience during that time because I
Yeah.
was off in La La Land. So
Wow.
there you go.
Okay. Okay. This is amazing.
Yeah. So, do you want me to share like my perspective or?
Yes, I would love that.
Okay. So, um, yeah. So basically, the whole gym thing was the same, except Friday when we're at the gym, he did text me and say, "Hey, I think I'm going to go to the ER." And I walked over to him this time because he said that yesterday, right? And I
Right.
walked over to him and I could see him like in distress. And I said, "Okay, you said that yesterday. So when are you going to go?" "After my meetings. It's fine."
Right.
And normally Fridays are like our day dates. But this particular day, he set up meetings and I was going to take my sister to lunch for her birthday. So we were going separate places. And then he's like, "Just go finish your workout. I'm going to go sit in the lobby and see if it subsides." And I get a text like, "Hey, we need to leave right now." And I look over, he's going to the daycare. And again, like the man's working out. He's been fine, saying he's hurting. So I don't think anything crazy. And I
Mhm.
watch him walking out and all these people, "Can I take your kids? Oh my gosh, can I take him to the hospital?" And I'm just like, no, like, we're fine. Like, my husband's fine. We're just going to the hospital, you know? Like, I didn't think I actually thought I was taking him. I thought he was going to drop me and the kids off at home and drive himself to the hospital. That's like,
Okay.
he was that good to me. And then we get in the truck and he climbs in the passenger seat and I look at him like, he's like, take me to the hospital now. And I'm like, oh, I thought you were going to drop us off. And he's like, no, take me now. The lights are dimming. I'm not okay. So I start driving and I'm panicking, trying to get a hold of my sister and to meet me there to get the kids. I have no idea what's going on. Do I need to call 911? No. And he just keeps telling he is visibly in so much pain. He can't get comfortable. He's rolling side to side. The seat's laying down. He cannot get comfortable. He is saying lots of words and like huffing
Right.
and puffing. And we're driving down Ellsworth Road, and yeah, we're about to turn on the 24 as he had just told me I'm about to, like, if I pass out, stay calm. I said, if you pass out, do I call 911? And he tells me yes. And then shortly after, he starts, I look over at him and he's just fixated, like eyes wide open, not moving. And I'm like, Jake, Jake. And I start shaking him. Wake up. I thought he was joking. Like, wake up. I'm going to call 911. If you're joking, this isn't funny. I'm really calling 911. And he starts convulsing and his face is bright red and he's having what looks like maybe a seizure or something, that I'm freaking out and like very violent. And then all of a sudden his body goes stiff and his head is like leaning over the console into the back seat by my 4-year-old's feet. And just bright red, sweating. And I call 911. I'm turning onto the freeway. They're like, what is happening? What's going on? I tell them everything. And what felt like 2 minutes, I don't know. They're like, okay, does he have a history of seizures? No, but that might be what it was. And they're asking if I want to pull over, all these things. And in the meantime, as I'm talking to them, Jake wakes up, like takes this like as if he had been underwater and
Right.
taking his first breath, you know. And he's like, I'm okay. I don't need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to the hospital. We're
Right.
going. And then when they ask me to pull over, he freaks out like, we don't have time. Get there. And I'm like, okay, so he clearly still wants to go. So we get there. 911 stayed on the phone with me. Um, he stayed on the phone with me while we get there. I'm driving 95 miles an hour. I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. I do know where I'm going, but like, am I going to the right hospital? Am I passing other hospitals?
Right.
What's the fastest way? We get there. I
Right.
drop him off. My sister pulled in at the same time as I pulled in a parking spot. She gets my
Oh
kids. I'm
wow.
not even 5 minutes behind Jake. Like, I can't be 5 minutes behind him. And I walk in to this room. They take me back to him, and there's, yeah, 15 nurses, doctors, and he's got EKGs, all like those sticky things all over him. And I'm
Yep.
like, oh, I thought we'd be like waiting in the waiting room. Like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, oh, he's having a heart attack. And it hit me. Oh, that's what happened in the car. He had a heart attack, not a seizure. And they just start talking medical terms like, okay, is he okay? Like, well, looks like one of your main, we're trying to transport you to Banner Heart. Looks like one of your main vessels is dying. And I said, does that mean he's going to die? And they're like, we're hoping not.
Oh
And
my
that was
God.
just kind of like what? Yeah, we're trying to save him. And my brothers, I'm getting goosebumps. My brothers were on their way to come give him a priesthood blessing. And my sister, who had just gotten my kids, was running home to get the oil to meet them there. And my brothers were already there, but waiting for the oil. And by the time, anyways, I said, okay, can my brothers give him a priesthood blessing? And they're like, no, there's no time. We're transporting him to Banner Heart. They can follow and go wait there and do it when, he's more stable. And then you're still waiting for the ambulance. Like, it was still another 20 minutes. And I'm like, not really, it was probably not 20 minutes, but it was still a few minutes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we could have done this blessing. But my brothers were awesome. We drove to the hospital. They worked on Jake in the cath lab for like 4 hours,
Hmm.
coded, and they ended up putting stents in and a balloon, but he was in a medically induced coma. And anyway, so after 4 hours, my brothers were then able to go give him a blessing. He also had a heart pump placed, and they were airlifting him to Banner University in downtown Phoenix, which used to be Good Samaritan Hospital, where they kept saying they have bigger machines. If he needs bigger machines, he'll probably need bigger machines. And I don't know what
Wow.
that meant. So, and the doctor kept standing there telling me, oh, your husband was talking to me, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden he coded, and, we had to do CPR. We had to do the paddles for 2 minutes. We got him back and all this stuff. It was like the scariest day of my life. And then, so they airlift him to this hospital. Oh, that doctor, he kept saying, if your husband makes it, if you're, he kept saying if. And I'm like, you told me my husband's stable, but you keep saying if my husband makes it. Like, what is his chances of surviving this? And he's like, I'd say at this point, like, it's a 50-50. Just
Oh
so
my
I to
goodness.
this hospital to get the bigger machines that can help him live. And so they airlift him to Banner University. And again, I have no idea what medical terminology is. I have no idea what is happening. And all I can say is, when are we going home? How long are we going to be here? We don't know. It's just
Right.
one day. And then each day I would ask, it's hour by hour. And then it's like, it's minute by minute. I think they were just so sick of me, like, asking, because I just had no idea. And that was October 28th. And by November, I think it was a couple days, they lifted the sedation a little bit, where he was able to like head nod and kind of open his eyes and, do his I love you sign to me. Enough communication, but nothing, like, there was the ventilator in, we could not speak. Um, and what I think it was about November 2nd. I don't know. It was pretty quick after, within that first week, he started doing really bad. His oxygen levels were dropping. They had to kick me out of the room. Um, which there had been like ups and downs, but they would just be like, let's just sedate him, let's put him back, and they'd paralyze him. Like, put him back in a coma. But this
Okay.
particular day, like, nothing was
Right.
working. And they were like, we need to put him on this ECMO, this bigger machine. And I was like, well,
Hmm.
the smaller one, and all these things. And he ended up, it was life support. He ended up being on life support for 9 days. And they said, if you're on life support, like past 7 days, it's almost nearly impossible to get off. Like, it's possible, but like, your chances of getting off of life support is like, just the longer you're on it, your body is now just relying on this machine to, your body is doing
Right.
nothing. And it's the machine pumping your blood through and oxygenating it through your lungs and all of that. So that was for 9 days, and he did eventually get off. He did have pneumonia as well, that the doctors were like, when I would ask questions about when can he get off life support, they're like, Shay, he could die from pneumonia. Like, it is so bad. And the whole thing, it would like kind of come to where they'd lift his sedation enough, and then they'd have to sedate him, and then they'd lift him, and because he had all this fluid in his lungs, he'd start coughing, and he had a tube. And so then he's like coughing up
Hmm.
blood, and it's coming out of his nose and out around the tube,
Hmm.
and just violent things. And would then have to sedate him, and just all these like in and out of coma, and just so many ups and downs, that they would try something and it'd fail, and they'd try something to help and then it'd fail. And
And this
but
was on one real quick. This was on when he was on ECMO as well. That they'd try to lift the sedation and whatnot,
um
or it was just 9 straight days that you were on ECMO, Jake, and then they kind of lifted the sedation after that,
I
before and after, probably.
I really don't remember, now that you're saying that, if he was on
Yeah.
ECMO and they would. I don't think so. I think it was 9. I think when you're on life support, yeah,
You
because you
don't
have to
get lifted.
know like nothing's working but the machines.
Yeah.
So I don't
Right. That's
think
what I
he
thought
got
too.
his
Yeah.
consciousness. He was like
Yeah.
in and out of this coma for over 30 days. So like if it seems like I don't
Right.
know, because there's so much that was jumbled that, but I think when he was on
Right.
the ECMO, and that was the worst part, is because when the sedation would be lifted sometimes, I would feel a little connection. And then, and I will say this, when they would paralyze him, the coma, the medic, like he's paralyzed, it's a medically induced
Right.
coma. I didn't really like understand, but the first time I saw him, he was paralyzed, and I like, oh, he looks dead. And but you just think he's like sedated, I don't know, paralyzed. And then when they put him on the ECMO and I saw him, my sister was with me and she walked in and she's like, he looks he looks dead. And I'm like, oh, he does. And then I realized when the paralytic would be lifted, I would see his eyes blink and he'd get goosebumps. And like when you're paralyzed, like literally your body is like shut down. Like he had
Right.
like after he had when his nails were growing out, like lines in his nails. Because when you're paralyzed, like your hair stops growing and your nails stop growing. Like
Wow.
literally your body doesn't work. And
Wow.
so, anyways, there were times that when the sedation was lifted, I would feel a connection and I could feel his spirit in the room. Like he's here with me. And then there was one specific day that normally they would ask my permission or tell me, hey, I'm just letting you know we're going to paralyze him. He's struggling or whatever. And I would be aware. But there was one specific day I was taking a nap in the chair next to his bed. And I woke up and I remember feeling weird. And I texted my mom and I said, Mom, I feel weird. And I couldn't figure it out. And I felt disconnected from him. And it sounds so dumb because I wasn't even speaking to my husband, but like I would like watch Friends and I'd like laugh and be like, oh my gosh, Rachel, oh, and like he was there with
Yeah.
me even though I wasn't. But this moment I could tell he was gone. And I asked the nurses, I was like, hey, is he paralyzed? And they were like, oh yeah, we paralyzed him at whatever time. And that's about the time that I woke up feeling disconnected. But I had waited a couple hours to ask because I'm like, why do I feel weird? And anyways, I was pretty upset. But looking back, I truly believe that when he was paralyzed, I believe that those were some of the moments where the veil was like so thin that he was not actually there. And maybe that's in my own brain or heart, but I could then, as soon as the paralytic would be lifted, I would feel him come back. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I don't know if I'm making,
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah, I don't
Wow.
even know if I've like shared that. This has like never come up, but
No, I
yeah,
believe it.
yeah.
I
So
believe it.
I do totally believe that he was like his spirit was leaving. I felt it.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I asked the doctors, like, is he paralyzed? Because like I just feel different, and I could feel him gone. And
Wow.
yeah, that was crazy. But anyways, I don't know where to keep going and to keep like to stop because I can just like forever and
Um,
ever talk.
that's amazing. So, well, I've had my family, my mom's side of the family we all have like big heart issues. So, like my brother had surgery at Banner Desert. I'm amazed that you had to go to Banner University because that's where my mom and brother were like. So my brother had a heart attack too at your same age. Both my brothers
Wow.
did. My grandfather died water skiing from a heart attack. Like just so like I'm well versed in all the heart stuff. So cath lab and all that stuff. And anyway, but so they all were staying at Banner Desert, and so I've always liked Banner Desert. So I didn't. That's a kind of a fun fact because I didn't know that Banner University is basically better. I guess is what you guys were kind of saying, or just different in some ways. But
Yeah.
um, anyway, so it's amazing, isn't it? Like the heart and like how fast it happens, and just like, and that's exactly how my family has described it too. They just didn't look good, or they just had an elephant sitting on their chest, and next thing you know, they're passed out, they're, being revived. Anyway, so
Yeah,
it's
the
pretty
interesting
scary.
thing that after the fact, when I was kind of talking and Shay was telling me about everything that went down, is your heart pumps blood to every other organ, and
Hmm.
so if your heart starts to fail, everything else starts to fail. And so
Yep.
that was a big kind of discussion between the surgeons and the doctors and the whole heart team was, do we try to fix his organs or do we try to fix his heart?
Wow.
Because if you try to do one and the other fails, then you're going to kick yourself or whatever. So
Right.
Shay would tell me that, there finally was a surgeon who came in after he had been kind of monitoring me and checking on me. And then he left on vacation and he came back a week later and he's like, nothing is getting better. Like, Shay, what are your thoughts? And she was just like, listen, if we don't do something at this point, like, he's going to die regardless. So if we just let him kind of wither away, he's going to die for sure.
Yeah, I was
So
watching him
Hmm.
wither away. Like he is losing. Like
Right.
his calf was the size of my forearm, which looks large right there. But I was like,
We get
no,
what
like my husband's dying, and if it's not from heart stuff, like he's gonna die from. Sure, you have a feeding tube, but that's not like he's dying. Like
or the
yeah, I had
pneumonia
lost about
and
80
things like that.
pounds in about 5 weeks. And so,
Wow.
yeah, I was a little, I mean, even when I woke up, I was like, what in the heck is going on here? Like, why am I so thin? But,
Right.
so eventually the surgeon came to Shay and says, look, like, what do you want to do? And she's like, we have to do something. And he's like, I agree. So I have to go convince, 30 other doctors that we need to work on his heart and not his organs. And they were going to give me some pushback, but I'm going to try my best to convince them. And she's like, okay. And, the interesting thing about that is Shay kind of had, uh, she had had basically a conversation with Heavenly Father the night before, um, that something needs to happen, and not just like, Heavenly Father, I'm mad at you, or you know make my husband walk right out of this hospital. It was just like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm putting all my trust into your hands, basically, that whatever it needs to happen, you're going to take care of. But at this point, like, I need something to happen.
Well, okay, you can keep going. I want to go into two of those experiences. Actually, you can keep going.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. So, and then the next day he came in and was like, hey, we got to be aggressive. So I'm going to schedule surgery right away. And then he basically came to Shay and says, my belief is that if we fix the heart, it will start pumping blood to the kidney, or pumping blood in the body. The kidneys will be better. The rest of his organs will be better. And that's, essentially what happened. So
Yeah.
the next day they took me back and they gave me what's called an LVAD. It's a left ventricular assist device. It's basically a heart pump that they
Hmm.
surgically attach to your heart. And there's a device that comes out of like a cord that basically comes from the pump all the way out your stomach.
Hmm.
And then it's attached to what looks like maybe a 2008 cell phone, like a half a size of a brick. And it's
Yeah.
got, it's, basically it's called your controller, but it monitors your heart rate. It monitors the output. It monitors, all the things that you need for your heart. Um, but it's powered electrically, so you have to keep it powered, otherwise the heart pump will stop working. So when they place this LVAD on me, or in me, um, it meant that for the time being I had to live with batteries basically powering my heart.
Right.
So I lived like that. And the good news is after the surgery, within a couple hours, my kidneys were producing urine, the rest of my organs were functioning better. So it was a
Wow.
huge success. And, you can call it prompting or whatever, but I do feel like when it comes to people's lives, like in the medical field, like there's definitely some, like, the hand of God that goes on in there
Mhm.
with some of the decisions that
Totally.
are made. And
Totally.
it was definitely a prompting from both Shay, from the doctor, that this is what needed to happen, because it was the right decision. And so, Um, but yeah, and then I woke up with an LVAD and had no clue what it was. I was still kind of fuzzy in and out of a lot of stuff, like what's going on. I had needles in me all up and down my arms, left and right. Um, just because I had to take blood every what seemed like every 30 minutes.
Right.
There's all sorts of monitors monitoring my heart. I can't walk. I can't barely lift my arms. I can't eat. I have a feeding tube. And so when I woke up, it was quite the difference from when I went to sleep. So I went to sleep about 235 pounds and I woke up at 163, I think, was the lowest that
Wow.
I got. So yeah, it was quite the stay at Banner University.
What were the experiences that you were going to say, Shay?
Well, you were asking about spiritual experiences, and as Jake was saying that, I'm like, oh, I should probably share those. Um,
Take
so
the mic.
there was, let me think. So yeah, I guess what we haven't even talked about like ever, maybe on the Instagram, was that it wasn't just Jake's heart that failed. His kidneys were, he was on dialysis 24, like his kidney, they were talking about a possible heart and kidney transplant at the same time. When he was put
Wow.
on the life support, I didn't share this, that it was, we're putting him on this and we have 24 hours. We're going to do an emergency transplant. We're going to do an emergency evaluation, an emergency heart transplant, or an artificial heart, which is another machine that is worse than what Jake ended up with, that they cut half of your heart out and put in a fake half heart. And it is
Mm.
a lot worse than the one that we had. Well, they did
Right.
this emergency evaluation and it comes back he's too sick for either of them. They're like, he'll die just from the surgery alone. Like, he can't survive. So, um, anyway, so that was kind of that. And the life, I want to go back to the life support situation where they told me, 3 to 5 days, anything after that's pretty hard to get off. 7 days is kind of like, we're worried. So again, day 7 of that, where the doctor is telling me, hey, we're not worrying about the life support. He could die of pneumonia. He's the sickest person in the state of Arizona. Like, that's how you need to understand this. Well, that night, I only had like a few of these big experiences. And that night, it was the next night, I have a conversation with Heavenly Father, just like, okay, I like, we gotta figure something out, And I have this conversation with him, just like, I know that this is nearly impossible, but something's got to give. And the next day is when I walked in and they're like, hey, we're going to, test the life support today and like lower the levels and see if he can handle it. And he totally did. And they're, by the end of today, he'll be off of this. And I'm like, you just told me he was going to die. Like, we couldn't take it off. So there was like a big prayer moment that I did not find a coincidence in that. And then the situation that Jake's talking about the night before the doctor came in about the surgery, it was about day 30, I want to say, where I was doing the same thing. I hadn't seen my stepkids in 40 days. I'd only seen my two from my ex-husband like a couple days here and there. And my two little ones, like, randomly, I would stop by my sister's to help put them to bed if he was in a state I could leave early. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, we're just coming home to this quiet house, just this unknown, and this like, oh, we're trying, it fails. We're trying, it fails.
Yeah, she'd be at the hospital from 6 a.m. to midnight pretty much every day, just waiting
Mm-hmm.
and hoping and praying for
I
something.
started to leave around 9, 10 o'clock because I'm like, it was a 45-minute drive there. And some nights I would sleep there if I didn't feel he was stable enough. They'd let me sleep there.
Right.
In the beginning, I was there
Okay.
for like 5 days straight. I was like, I'm not leaving him. But then
Right.
they made me go home. Like, you need to go sleep. You need to shower. You need to. And I got like okay with it. But if he was not doing okay or like paralyzed, I'm like, I'm staying here. Um,
Right.
but this one particular night, I'm in the shower. I'm washing my hair. And I just am thinking of all of the things. Like, what would I do if he dies? How is this going to go? I'll never get remarried. Everyone says that, and then they do. Like, I'm like playing this whole thing. What are my kids going to do? What am I going to do? And then it just turned into like my thoughts turned into like words out loud. Actually, not yet. I'm having these thoughts. I get out of the shower and I catch a glimpse. I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And it was one of those moments, like, you know, you see yourself in the mirror all the time. And I caught it and I was like, who is that? Like, I didn't even know who that girl was. And I just like got closer. I leaned over my counter and I was like looking at myself and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is really our life. Because I had been doing survival mode. Like, it's just like, oh, what, you know, like just going. So I had this moment with myself and I start talking to myself. And then it turned into this prayer where I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. Something's got to change. If you're going to take him in the end, if all of this leads to him dying, take him now. Like, it's been 30 days. I can't do this any longer. Like, I'm getting burnt out. If you're going to save him, save him. If you're going to take him, just do it now. Cuz my kids need me. Like, we just got to get moving on. And because there was no, like, they would try and then fail. And I'm like, there's no answers. So that was like a moment. And that very next morning on my way to the hospital, my sister had sent me this general conference talk. And the gist of it was, you have faith, he can heal, but do you have faith if he doesn't? And I had actually avoided this talk. She sent it to me a few weeks before. And I was like, I don't want to listen to that. It's not what I want to hear, you know? And my mom's like, I
Totally.
think you really you should listen to that, Shay. So I listened to it the night after, the morning after my conversation with Heavenly Father. I listened to this conference talk, and it's talking about all these different situations. And sure, we all have faith that he can heal, but do we have faith if he doesn't? And it, like, I
Right.
listened to that, and I was like, well, yeah, I guess all of my prayers are heal him, let him come home, like, heal him. I know you can heal him. Like, that's what everyone's fasting for. Pray for the miracle. We all know what miracle everyone's praying for. Like, although there were little
Right.
miracles happening every day that nobody saw, that, anyways, so after that, I still had about 15 minutes before I got to the hospital, and I was like, okay, well, here it goes. So I say another prayer, and I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you, I have faith. I know you can heal him, but I'm going to tell you that I have faith if you don't. I won't leave you. I know that there's a bigger plan. I'm for real going to put it in your hands, and I'm not going to try to tell you what to do. If you take him, I'll be okay. But I just need you to have a plan for me and my kids first. Like, please think of us, which I know you do, but just like, you know, that little extra nudge. And
Right.
I gave that to him. Like, I will be okay. I won't leave you. It was like my true test of faith. And that's when I walked into the hospital and the doctor, I'm not even kidding, from everyone saying, no, 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 we're not ever doing this until he's better, until his kidneys are better and his lungs are better. And this doctor walks in and is like, well, we're going to be aggressive and I'm going to put this LVAD in him in 48 hours. I have to convince everyone tomorrow. Not one person in this, and probably the whole country, would even perform this surgery on him. That's how sick he is.
Wow.
And not one person in this hospital wants me to do it. And there's nurses and doctors standing in the room as he's talking to me about this. And he says, there's a real high possibility of him dying with this surgery. He might not recover just because the cutting him open, his body's so sick it might not even heal. But it is the only way he can survive. And if we do nothing, he's going to die. And that's when he said, what do you think? And I looked around at everyone in the room and everyone was kind of like annoyed that he wanted to do this. And I said, well, I'm scared to do something, but I'm scared to do nothing because I'm watching him die and something has to change. And if he's going to die from this surgery, then I will at least be able to tell myself and my kids that, like, we did everything. I watched the doctors do everything But if I'm too scared to try that and I just watch him die laying here in this bed, like I'll never forgive myself. Like,
Right.
and so he did it. And it was like, I heard that meeting the next day from nurses was pretty intense. That like I'm doing this no matter what you guys think, and his other organs are failing because of his heart. And once we fix his heart, his other organs will, but everyone wanted his other organs to get better first. And anyways, so those were my spiritual experiences that like I had these moments with Heavenly Father, and the next day both of those experiences were life-changing things that I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, he hears me. He hears
Mm-hmm.
me." And I joke that I think I'm like, sorry you were going through that for so long. I think Heavenly Father was like, it was my test of faith. Like, okay,
Waiting for
are you
you.
going to trust me? Like, I know what I'm doing here. Stop telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And until
Right.
I gave it for real to him, which I thought I had, like, we say, like, I'm putting it in the Lord's hands, which I'm like, I would tell my mom, I'm putting it in the Lord's hands. But all of my prayers were, please help him get better. Please help
Help.
the doctors know what to do to
Yeah.
get him better. And it was like, did I really put it in his hands? So like when I really let go is when the miracle happened. And I know some people do that and the miracle doesn't happen. So I don't know the answer to that. But in our situation, like
Right.
it was like a faith building thing for me. And he just had to suffer. I guess I was suffering too, but
Yes,
it
you
was
were.
it was pretty cool because, and what I don't talk about is that before the heart attack, I wasn't doubting. Can't believe I'm sharing this. I wasn't doubting anything. I wasn't leaving the church, but I had talked to Jake. I was scared to talk to him. I had talked to him and was like, I'm struggling. Like I'm not saying my prayers and it's intentional. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like afraid. For some reason I had this like I don't it wasn't resentment. I don't know what it was. Do you know what it was? I had this weird like I don't know. It was almost like I was afraid. I've had a lot of betrayal in my life and I was going through a period where I was afraid that if I had like if I would pray, even though I know he's there, I was afraid what if he didn't answer me. And this is before the heart attack. I was like having my
Right.
own personal like turmoil of like I'm not saying my prayers and I want you to know like I know he exists. I know he's there. I'm just dealing with my own personal thing. And he was so supportive and we'd have talks and I didn't share that with
Yeah.
anyone. I don't think my parents, my sister, nobody. And
This was also a time, Claire, where it felt like a lot of our friends and people around us were
leaving.
leaving the church.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
are we being dumb? Like, not maybe not we, but Shay came to me, and it was the first time I was like, "Really? Are you questioning stuff?" And
Right.
so it was just a weird time, And I think a lot of that played
Yeah.
into how it goes. Like, it's just as I mean, we tell our kids and we do, hey, say your prayers every night, but are we saying our prayers every night? Hey, read your scriptures every
Right.
day. Are we reading our scriptures every day? And we do, and it's sometimes it's not as often as we like, but when you just don't do it and you're like intentionally not doing it, then your testimony starts to waver. And so I'm sure that I'll go through a period like that and I'll have to come back to Shay and be like, hey, I need your help. Like I'm
Yeah.
struggling. And
Yeah, which
so
is funny. I wasn't like doubting. I wasn't maybe I was doubting. I don't know, but it was more of like, why is everyone leaving? Like, do they like do are we living under a
Yeah.
rock? Like in like
Right.
people were leaving in like masses, and I still feel like they are.
Totally.
But and
Totally.
it was like some of our like close friends that I'm like that they had had like personal experiences that like I'll never leave the church, and then a year later they're leaving the church, and I'm like I'm
Right.
okay. And so then I was like I just like put this wall up like I think I'm afraid to pray cuz like what if you betray me? I don't know. That it probably sounds
Yeah.
so dumb saying it out loud because when I
No.
tell Jake
No.
I'm like I know it doesn't make sense. I know he doesn't betray me. He's always there. He's never left me. I've been through some really hard things in my life and he's never left me. But then I'm not kidding,
Right.
like this happened like during that time. And
Oh,
I,
Yeah.
no.
yeah, within a month of me talking to Jake about this and the heart attack. And of course, I rely on him. That's all I have. And I'm like listening to only church music on the way to the hospital or praying only,
Right.
no other music, no Morgan Wallen, no whatever. And it was
Right.
like brought me so much peace. And then those moments that I'd have those conversations and the next day, like, oh, we're taking him off life support. I'm like, oh, he hears me. He's not,
Yeah.
he's like giving me little things. And I would laugh that I'm like, even if he dies, I feel like I have to get up and stand at his funeral because I'm like, everyone's praying and fasting around the country to for a miracle. And my sister's like, yeah, everyone's miracle they're praying for is that he walks out of the hospital. And what if he doesn't?
Right.
Like people are gonna
Mhm.
question God. Like this became such a like big
I
story.
think God had no choice but to save me because he was going to lose thousands of people just based
but
on, oh,
Just like, what am I
I
praying
we're
for?
praying for you. And it's
no,
like,
totally. We joke about that too. Like he had no other choice. But I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna have to stand at his funeral and say, no, there were miracles happening every day. Like whether he's alive or not, like and I was gonna have to
Right.
share my experiences that like that was a miracle that he got off life support. That didn't mean he was gonna live. We still that was in the beginning. We still had, 3 more weeks of him nearly dying. And so I'm like, I'm gonna have to like get up and comfort everyone. Like, no, 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 no. Like the miracles were happening. And the miracles I was at one point planning his funeral in my brain. Like, okay, who's gonna speak? What's because it was at that point where it was like
Right.
he's going.
Right.
And I where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought.
Well, I'm sure you're probably such a planner too. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm sure I think it's also a mom thing to do and a wife thing to do to be like, all right, I've got to take care of my kids. I've got to figure the funeral. I got to, yeah. So I would probably be
Yeah,
the
and like,
same
oh,
way that
what
you
was his favorite
think
hymn?
out.
What's this?
Yep.
Do I remember
Yep.
like, certain things that we have talked that we want to speak at each other's funerals. And so I'm like, okay,
Right.
I'm gonna have to talk and I'm gonna have to comfort everyone. This is where I was going, is that even if he died, which I know he's living, so it's like dumb to go there, but my brain was like, it's the miracle that I had time. He didn't just die of a heart attack in the car, where I had no answers of like, he's a
Oh,
professional
yeah.
athlete. We're at the gym every day. We eat healthy. What do you mean he died of a heart attack? There was like hardly
Right.
any signs. I had time to process and watch the doctors try and do all these things. And like, I feel dumb even saying it because he's alive, but I'm like, my brain had time to process all of these things and catch up to, oh, this is where we're at. Okay. Okay. we're, I'm like, there's just miracles in all of it. And truthfully, the night before the doctor said that surgery and that conversation with Heavenly Father, and then that morning, that conference talk, and saying, "Here you go. I really am giving full faith." To me, I'm like, "Oh, I think that might have been a trial and a situation for me that I had to go through, like you had to go through to get me to get stronger. Like we both grew
Yeah, I
from
don't
it,
think
but
it's dumb at all, by the way. Sorry. I don't think it's dumb at all that you saw those little miracles that you saw them and you see them now. Because a lot of us don't see them and until after, but that's why I do this. That's because I love to hear all those little things and the big things because people always just focus on the big, but it's those little miracles too. Because I'd be the same way. I would want my brain to process and
yeah,
just that you were thankful that if he were to pass away that it wasn't immediately, that you still had that time to process, and that's
yeah.
amazing. I really love that.
Because if you know me, I am a processor
Yes,
through and through.
totally. Totally. Yeah, that's amazing. I really like
Yeah.
that part you said. Okay, so now you got a heart transplant, right? Like, if you have any more spiritual experiences, please tell them that I'm missing
yeah,
out or that you haven't said anything or
Not
anything
to
like that.
mention
But
any of your.
no, I mean, so I'll go briefly. I haven't really discussed too much of like life with an LVAD. So I wake up and I didn't even know I had an LVAD for a couple days, and all of a sudden I'm pulling on cords trying to figure out what's what, and I pull on this white one, and it yanks in my stomach, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is
Mm.
this? And Shay's like, oh, that's your LVAD, and I'm like, what the heck is this LVAD? And she's like, yeah, that's gonna be you're living with that for the next little bit. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, I was so worried that you were gonna be so upset about this. And um, the crazy thing, Claire, is that when I had all this happen, there were so many external things that were going on in my life, like just crazy stuff. Like work was crazy, my personal life was crazy. Um, our kids' situation was nuts with school and holidays and Halloween, and
Mhm.
we had just gotten in on we just bought a house up in Montana, so we went up there and we were like check. I mean, it was just crazy stuff going on, and then I wake up and like everything is gone. Like everyone in my business had left. Um, my wife hadn't seen our kids for 40 days. My kids hadn't seen their dad for 40 days. And I don't want to say I was stripped of everything because I still had my house, I still had things that I could come back to, but it felt like everything that I was worried about or thinking about prior was taken away from me. And it was actually quite nice to just have to worry about just being alive.
Mhm.
And it allowed me a lot of time to kind of reflect. It allowed me a lot of time to pray and figure out what my life was going to be like. Because when I woke up, I had had multiple experiences with death, and I'm like, okay, I'm alive for good now, like at least for now. So what am I going to do? Like I have this quote unquote second chance at life. What do I want to do? And I remember just vividly talking with my wife, like we need to help more people. We need to focus on you know having good relationships with people and making sure people know that we care and being there for people, etc., whatever. And it was really like an interesting experience being in the hospital where I couldn't walk, couldn't feed myself, couldn't do a lot of stuff on my own, and I had to rely on a lot of different things, and I had to rely on God for a lot of it, just to like, hey,
Mhm.
Heavenly Father, I know that this is not ideal for me, so please help me understand like what is going on here. Why am I here? Because it wasn't like I was some alcoholic or something that I was just crushing my body, and God was like, well,
Right.
son, this is what happens when you treat your body like crap.
Right.
So anyway, there was a lot of cool reflecting moments and just personal prayers that I had. And even when Shay and I, before she left, we'd say a prayer together at night, and it was just, some of the moments that were just super tender for her and I as just as a couple that we can, that I think about often. I don't know if she does, but I think about just those times where she would come and visit me, and we'd have those special moments where sometimes we'd just sit and watch Friends, or we'd sit and watch a ball game or something, like whatever it was,
Mind
or
you,
Right.
she'd take a nap.
this is after you're awake, and like had to recover for a little bit
Yeah.
Right.
because I don't want it to seem like when you were that you remember when you were in your coma during all that.
No,
Like
this is all
Right.
after
So
I was awake,
after,
all of December.
which
yeah,
when
yeah,
he was in
yeah.
his coma, I would lean over him and I would say prayers with him every night, which is actually a
Right.
funny. I have just a funny joke. When we say our couples prayers, we take turns, right? Like he says it one night, I say it
We
one
take
night.
turns.
Yeah.
Right.
He says one night, I say the next night. And if we ever for some reason skip a night, but it was my turn the night, like it was supposed to be my turn, but we skipped my night, the next night he's like, it's your turn. I'm like, well, it's your night. I try to get out of the couple prayer, like I make him to
Like
do
every
it.
time.
I'm like, well, we're restarting, so you just have to start because you're the priesthood holder. And so it's a joke. So for this like over 30 days that he's in a coma, I said prayers with him morning and night, like leaning
Oh,
over, just hugging him, where he's
yeah.
like dead. He doesn't even know I'm praying. And
Right.
I'm like, I would joke with him. Again, he has no idea. There was times where he'd be kind of like, he could laugh. And I'd say, hey, it's me every night. So you're going to have to make up these nights. Like, I'm saying these
You
prayers
got
every
30
night.
nights.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I'd made up for it for like the 6 years of marriage that we were. Anyway,
Anyways,
so
it's
it
a
was
funny
funny.
joke.
But
I love it. I love
so
it.
then it's middle of December. I'm trying to figure out like when am I going to go home. I feel like I'm not progressing, but I feel like all the stuff I can do from home. And but the problem was I'm still in the ICU, and I still need a lot of attention medically, and I still need a lot of help and assistance, pretty much everything. Can't walk on my own. Wouldn't walk on my own until like March. So we're December
Oh
now,
wow.
and the biggest thing for me is I just want to get home for my kids to have Christmas with them, to be on Christmas. And pretty much every
Mm-hmm.
doctor and nurse was like, "That's not happening.
Nope.
You just woke up 10 days ago. You can't walk. You can't do anything. You can't even eat on your own. You can't even eat solid foods. I still had my feeding tube in.
Like you're gonna have to go to a rehab
Like, there's a good
facility.
chance that you're not even going to get out of like a facility until like February or March." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." So basically, what they said is like, you have to be able to walk before we can even think about that. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do that. So every day in the hospital, when they would come and do my exercises, I would always be like, "Where are we going? Oh, we're gonna go to that second door. Okay, let's go to the third door." And I would just push myself and push myself and push myself. As hard as it was physically, it was way harder mentally because taking a step was like climbing a mountain. It felt like, and so, but I was so determined to get home before Christmas that I mean, I have nothing to do in there besides like mentally gear up for this rehab that I would do every day for 30 minutes. And so, anyways, I ended up going home 3 days before Christmas or 2 days before Christmas. I don't remember.
3.
But they're like, so, I mean, I have to believe that Heavenly Father helped me out with that too. So he knew that my kids needed their dad. He knew that it's a time that we celebrate the birth of our Savior. Like, I totally believe that there was some helping hands there, if
It
you
was
know
a
what I mean.
very special Christmas.
Yeah.
Having
So kids didn't know I was coming home. We surprised them on I think December
Oh,
23rd,
second.
22nd, and then
But I will say he was still not ready to come home.
oh no,
He
the
should
day that
have gone.
they're like, all right, you ready to go home? I was like, yeah. And then as soon as like they left, I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to go home.
No, there
And then they
was.
put me in the car, and the whole car ride is so uncomfortable. Like I felt like I was
oh,
sitting on rocks the entire time because I have like no padding in my butt at all. It's just straight bones. So I'm sitting
yeah.
on this car seat. Shay brings a pillow still, and it's still hard. I'm like trying to pull myself up. I'm like, oh, you got to get me home as soon as possible. It's a 40-minute
No,
drive.
like he still couldn't walk. They said you need to go to a rehab facility, but they're full until after the first of the year. And Jake's like, well, what's my other option? And they're like, well, you can go home. And he's like, then why are we not talking about that? And because your insurance only covers physical therapy twice a week for 30 minutes. And you need an everyday, like, nurse. And he looks at me. Everyone looks
I
at
got a
me.
cute one right here.
And they're
Oh,
like, are you okay with that? And I'm like, yeah, he needs to come home. And so he
yep.
they were not wanting him to come home, but the facilities were full. Anyways, I think the whole point of that is was definitely Heavenly Father's hands. He gets home for Christmas. And Jake's point in like our life was busy, work was busy. We bought this house in Montana. We had a brand new car being shipped across the country. Cars were impossible to find. This heart attack happens. We stop that. I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna die. I can't
Oh, we were
afford
building a
that.
pool, like all
Building a
sorts of
pool,
stuff.
like
Like it was.
all
Mm-hmm.
like our life was just like crazy, booming, busy, like all these things. And this kind of like forced us to slow down and cancel those things. And there were just not that it's not okay to get a new car, but it just, anyways,
The things that
it
we were
kind of
excited about
forced us.
and the things that we were busy with were things that can be taken away. And I think
Yeah.
for at least me, I'm like, okay, Jake, let's focus on the things that like can't be taken away in a sense, like your relationships, your family, your faith, you know your time.
Kind of
And
refocused us.
so
And while he can't walk, he's sitting on the couch for what, 3 months?
yeah,
And nothing but quality time. He can't go anywhere. He can't work. He can't leave. It's like quality time, focused on this. family and getting better and watching movies together and playing games and conversations. We'd put him in the wheelchair and do family walks. Like it was like
Hmm.
the most like sacred time. Like we talk about like how it was so hard, but it was so sacred to kind of reevaluate what really matters. And I'm not going to
Hmm.
lie, like coming home to an empty house every night that's clean, like nobody's been there, it's clean, nothing's changed, my kids are gone, it's quiet, and I'm like, I would give anything to have my house loud with screaming kids fighting right now and messes. And I'd be lying if I said that I have forgotten that and I don't get upset, like, stop fighting and pick up your shoes and clean up. But there are
Hmm.
times I remind myself, oh, I prayed. I prayed to have this and to get back to this, and we need to be grateful for it. And I try to remind myself that the dirty kitchen counter doesn't matter. That can be done after we go play our family game, after we do our family night swim. Like, those things don't matter. And I think that was kind of where you were going with that part.
Yeah, so I mean that was just a time, and I'll kind of double up where that was important for me when I talk about the transplant. But so I get home, and basically they're like, "Hey, look, this is what your life looks like. You have to do these 100 things," and I'm like, "Please tell my wife because I'm not going to remember any of them." And sure enough, like I get home and I'm
Yeah.
like, "How do I connect these batteries to the wall? How do I turn this
Right.
alarm off? How do I shower with this, stuff?" And so she helped me for a lot of it. And I mean, it got to the point where pretty much my life was I'd wake up at whatever 6, 7 in the morning, and Shay would have to come over and help me to the couch. And then I would sit on that couch for hours. And someone would come bring me my food. If I had to get up to go to the bathroom, someone had to help me up and put me in the wheelchair.
Someone?
Oh, well, Shay, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I would do my rehab, and those days were fun because it was like something new, but also like, oh, I don't want to do rehab. I just want to. So it's like mentally draining. And so, but like the LVAD sucked because I couldn't really take a legit shower. I had to
Mm.
bandage up my area, my cord area, and then I had to put these batteries in a like a purse looking thing and then wear this purse in the shower. It took me 10 minutes to get ready to shower. It would take me another 10, 15 minutes to shower. Then it would take me almost 30 minutes to get ready after because we'd have to bandage the whole incision area up.
Like a
But you had
sterile,
to like do it
like,
sterilely. So you had to put on gloves. You
and
had
it
to
had
put
to
Right.
on
be with
like,
me. So he had to shower when I was available to do
Right.
his
yeah.
thing.
So like if it wasn't summertime, like I showered like 3 times a week maybe, just because I was like, I don't want you to have to do this. And so
Totally.
but I hated that because every day my normal life is as soon as I wake up, I go right to the shower, and that was like part of my wake up routine was just okay. I'm gonna get up, shower, even if it's for a couple minutes, so that I can kind of wake up. So
Right.
but yeah, like you have a time limit. Like the battery's only good for like 13, 14 hours a day. So there would be times I'd either be in my living room or driving home, and my alarms would start going off like, hey, you've got 30 minutes to live, basically, unless you connect to power. Um, every night before, um, every night before bed, I'd have to disconnect from my batteries and plug into a wall power. And so, like, if our power ever went out, which thankfully we had this medical thing on our house that our house would like somewhat be protected if there was an outage.
Mm.
But just like lots of things, like even like hanging out with my kids, like, oh, watch my cord, or
Right.
sleeping next to my wife. It's like, oh, watch out for my cord there. And so
Right.
I eventually put all my batteries in a little fanny pack, and I bunched up my cord so it was kind of out of the way, but it wasn't ideal, Claire, but at the same time, it was, and I was told from the very beginning it was a bridge to transplant. It wasn't going to be how my life was. And
Right.
so a year and a half later, after we've gone through the process of getting listed for transplant, which was another ordeal because I had to get every doctor to pass off that my eyes were good, my teeth were good, my skin was good, my physical health was good, all my organs are good, blood, etc., which took like
Like the
six,
most
7, 8 months to do.
extensive, like,
So you're pretty much like it's hard
crazy.
because I'm trying to make a living for my family, but yet it's like I have to take 3 hours out of my day each week to go do X, Y, and Z for this transplant. So I finally get listed
Right.
in December of 23, a year and change later. And then in April, we got a call that there was a heart. But the issue was, and they went over with me during transplant or my prep class was every I think 3 out of 5 hearts
Amazing.
could have some sort of risk factor. Risk factor is they've been imprisoned for over a year. They were involved in sex for money, and then they were involved with drugs or something like that.
There was like a blood one
Yeah, so
too.
there was. I was just kind of like, okay, so if I know that, then we'll see. So they call me and they say, "Hey, Jake, it looks like this heart has some risk factor." And Shay and I had prayed and come to the conclusion that because I'm only 35 years old, I will not accept a heart that has any risk factor. And we both felt good about
Okay.
it. So they call me and they say, "Hey, we
Yeah.
have a heart with risk." I said, "Hey, let me talk to my wife." We talk together. We feel really good about it. We decline the heart. And so we tell them, "Hey, we're probably going to pass on this heart. I'm so sorry." And they're like, "Okay, no big deal." And about 30, maybe 40 minutes later, I get a call from the head of the heart failure team at the hospital. And he just rips me apart. "Jake, what are you thinking declining a heart? Do you not want to be on this list? Do you not want a new heart? Because if you don't, then you just need to let me know right now.
I'll take you off the
Yeah, we'll
list.
take you right off this list, blah, blah, blah." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my gosh, doc, I am so sorry. I didn't know that. I thought I had a choice." "Well, yeah, of course you have a choice, but do you think that we would ever give you a bad heart?" And I'm like, "Well, you told me that it has risk, and this is kind of what we felt." But I said, and I basically told him, I'm like, "Listen, I didn't know that you guys looked at the heart prior. I thought that I had to make a decision and then you guys would look at the heart and see if it was good. So that's my fault. I apologize. But if you guys offer me another heart soon, I'll take it." And he was like, "Okay, but just understand that this can seriously affect us giving or offering you another heart." And I'm like, "Oh crap, what did I just do?" So me and Shay were just puzzled and we're like, "What the heck?" So
Did we make the wrong
did we
choice?
make the wrong
Like,
choice? What's going
Right.
on? So a couple months later, I asked them, I said, "When are we looking at a new heart maybe?" And they're like, "Yeah, a couple weeks potentially." I'm like, "Oh gosh, okay." So a couple weeks go by, a month goes by, 2 months goes by, 3 months goes by, and we're just kind of like, "Well,
they're not giving you
yeah,
a
this is
heart.
my situation.
I
I
bet
guess I'm
that
living
felt
with
like
batteries for the
forever.
rest of my life."
Yeah.
And so summer was like coming and going. We were wrapping up summer, and then on my way home, I was actually playing golf. And on my way home from playing golf, I get a call from the hospital, and they're like, "Hey, Jake." And I was like, "Hey there." I think her name was Melody and Amanda. And they said, "Can we call Shay real quick?" And at this point, I knew something was going on. It was most likely a heart. And I said, "Yeah, call her." And
Yeah.
so they call Shay, and Shay answers, and I am waiting for her response because I know what they're going to tell me. And they're like, "Hey, Shay, it's Amanda, and we have Jake on the line." And immediately I know that Shay's just lost it. And she's like, "We have a heart for you, and we are not letting you decline it. It is the best heart we've
Hmm.
ever seen, and you guys need to come down to the
Wow.
hospital as soon as you can because it's going to go in tonight." And Shay and I have
Wow.
like we both were like, "What are we gonna do when we get the call? Like, what's that gonna be like?" And she's like, "I'm gonna give our two youngest to my sister, and we'll see how the kids are if they're with us." So our kids had meet the teacher that night for back to school, and I called my ex-wife and I said, "Hey, our kids need to go with you because I'm going in to get a new heart."
They were already with her.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, anyways, I was gonna go down to back to teach or meet the teacher just to say what's up and see if there's anybody that I knew and say hi. And so, anyways, we they said, "You guys need to be down at the hospital by I think 6 o'clock tonight." And at the time they called, it was like 4. So we go home and we gather the kids around, or the kids maybe came over
Yeah.
to say kind of good luck, goodbye, whatever you want to call
She
it.
brought them by.
So they each took a turn shaving my beard because you couldn't have a beard during transplant because there's an issues with infection and bacteria and stuff like that. So we shaved the beard off, and then we dropped our two little guys off at Shay's sister's house, and then we drove into the hospital. And it was like the red carpet was rolled out for us. As soon as we got there, there was really no checking in. They're like, go to this room, and we go up to this
You
room.
got
And
first
once we
class.
got there, they were all, what? Yeah, exactly. And there was a team waiting for us. And as soon as I got there, they prepped up my neck, and they did this thing called a plasmapheresis, where basically, if you think about it like a house, it'd be like buying an old property and just demolishing the house and then starting new. And so what they do is they get rid of all of my antibodies and all of my platelets, basically, because they're about to introduce a new heart from another body. And in our naturally, your body wants to fight
And
anything
reject
that's
it.
foreign. That's what, any sickness, your body's taught to just fight it, make it go away, kill it
Right.
off. So we put a new heart in my body without any sort of leveling of the body, or the your antibodies. Then the rest of your body will fight it, and they'll basically be like, no thanks, heart, get the heck out of here. So I go
Right.
in there, they do this plasmapheresis for I think 2 hours. They're getting my body ready. They're basically starting to shut down my immune system. And it's probably 8, 9, 10 o'clock at this point. The surgeon comes in and he's talking to us, and it's just so funny because it's just like another day at the office for these guys. It's arguably the biggest day of my life. And
Right.
I'm just about to have my heart ripped out of my body. And he's just like,
Right.
well, I'm going to go get a nap for a little bit. Let me know when you're ready. And I'm like,
Oh
okay.
my God.
So, um, anyways, we had, and then finally about midnight, I was ready, and they take me back. And Shay and her friend Whitney were there. Whitney had come to kind of give Shay a blanket and just be there with her for a little bit. And as we go, you kind of come to a cross, like to a T at the hallway. And Shay and Whitney went right, and I went left into the operating area. And I'm not kidding you, 5 minutes after I turned that corner and went left, the temperature dropped like 40 degrees. And they had told me that at some point during the heart procedure, when they're basically taking your heart out and putting the new heart in, they have to get your body to 19 degrees. And so they pack you
Wow.
in ice, they put you on in a super cold room and do the operation. And so as soon as I get into this operating room, I start shaking and shivering. And I'm like, am I nervous or am I cold? Am I nervous or am I cold? What's going on here? And I hop out of the wheelchair and I get up on the table. And as soon as I got on the table, I felt super peaceful and very like just calm. And it was probably 40 degrees in the room, and probably there's 3 or 4 people there getting me ready. And then 5 minutes later, they put the oxygen mask on me, and they're just like, hey, have fun. And so, but the thing is once you go in and you go under, you can actually make the heart, once it arrives, if it's not good anymore or if it's weakened, they won't put the heart in you, but they'll have you under anesthesia, and then they'll just wake you up. So you
And
could
say
go
it didn't
under
work.
and then wake up
Okay.
and you could still have the LVAD, or you could wake
Okay.
up and then they'll be like, hey Jake, sorry, the heart wasn't good and we didn't want to put it in your body. So
Okay.
as soon as I wake up, I'm in this room and I'm fuzzy and I'm looking around, and the first thing I do, Claire, is I reach into my where my LVAD site was with my cord, and it's gone. And I'm like, oh yes, it
It
worked.
worked.
They
It
did the
worked.
surgery. I can't believe it. And then I check my heart and I see that I have a big old incision there. And I've got a ventilator in, and Shay like sees that I'm kind of waking up, and she comes over to me. And the first thing I do is I'm like, get this thing out of my mouth. Obviously I didn't say it because I have this
Hmm.
ventilator in. And I'm like, ah, ah, ah. And she's like,
Yep.
what? And I'm like, this thing out now. And so she calls a nurse in, and for whatever reason, it was like super hot in my room. It felt like it was 100 degrees, but I'm sure it was just because I had just spent 4 hours in a 40-degree room.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, they come in, they take the ventilator out, and everything kind of went pretty solid from that point on, at least in the hospital. But I remember telling Shay a couple weeks ago, or maybe a couple days ago, I said, after when transplant happened, like there's part of that time that I was just like ready to bust out of that hospital and go home and be with my family. But there were also parts of it that really reminded me of her and my time in the hospital the first time, where it was just us and we spent some good quality time together. And all I was trying to do was just live and get better. I wasn't focused on work. I wasn't focused on kids' sports. I wasn't focused on church callings or anything. It was just literally a time where her and I could be together and just be in the moment. You know what it was? And so I was in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks. And the reason I was there for a little bit longer, I probably could have gone home after about 7 or 8 days. I mean, they had me up walking 4 or 5 hours after like I had woken up. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and I had tried to keep myself in really good physical condition so that I could bounce back. And got up and I walked the halls and I felt really good. And I'm like, all right, let's, when can I go home? And they're like, well, take it easy, big fella. So, um, but yeah, so I had gone in for my first little biopsy and I had a little bit of rejection, which is very common in young recipients because your body tends to fight disease a little bit better, tends to fight things off a little bit better. So I had a little bit of rejection on my heart. They gave me some more steroids, and eventually I was able to go home after about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. But thankfully, the Olympics were on, so I got to watch the Olympics all day, which was nice because it was either that or cooking shows, which I like
Right.
both, but I prefer to watch, the 100-meter dash. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and honestly, ever since then, it's been somewhat normal life, just adjusting to a new heart, adjusting to medications, adjusting to doctor's visits. Um, but I don't have to be changed every 3 or 4 days with my incision sites. I don't have to worry about
Mhm.
cores. I don't have to worry about alarms waking me up or changing batteries or anything like that. One as soon as my 8 weeks were up, I jumped in my pool, and it was the freaking best thing ever because we had finished our pool right after the heart issues, the initial heart failure and the LVAD. And so I went a whole summer and a half watching my kids swim where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to swim. I can't wait to swim. Um, and even like if we went to the beach, they're like, hey, you're still so fresh. Like you can't really swim in the ocean. So we have a beach trip planned in about a week and a half, and we are super pumped. Well, at least I am because I get
Oh,
to go boogie boarding with the kids and get in
yep.
the ocean again. So that'll be fun. But
Okay, but explain the best part about rejecting the first heart and this one,
yeah, so
the spiritual part of it.
I mean, once Shay and I both at the end of the first time when we declined it, we were like, man, did we make a mistake? Like, were we wrong? And as soon as we got the word that the heart that they had seen was the best heart they ever seen, it was totally perfect for me. We both felt an overwhelming feeling of like confirmation. Like this is why we rejected the first heart.
Well, and
We
then
feel like we were almost, and they talk about like signs of the spirit, sometimes being a stupor of thought, and we almost feel like
Mhm.
we were made dumb to realize what this whole
well, because
heart
the
thing
first time we
was.
rejected it, it wasn't just, oh, we don't feel good about it. We were totally confused that the doctors even looked at the heart initially. Anyways, it's a whole thing. But we were both
Mhm.
confused. Usually, one of us will be like, no, this is what they told us, and like convince the other one. But we were both confused and had this misunderstanding, and we were both in the transplant um, training thing before we were listed, and we both were in this like stupor of thought.
Mm.
And so they tell us on the phone, it says, heart, we're not letting you decline it, it's perfect. Well, after surgery, like they can't tell us anything. We still don't know who this person is, how old they are, where they live, how they died. Like we have no idea.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
hopefully within the next little bit, we're coming up on a year, hopefully we can maybe learn more and then possibly meet them if they want to meet us. We are like hoping they do. But after surgery, Jake is like, "Come on, doc. You really can't tell me anything. Tell me just how old this person is. Tell me where they live. Okay, don't tell me where they live. I won't Google. Tell me just tell me anything about this heart because it was not a high risk heart, which 3 out of 5 hearts are, right? So no high risk." And the doctor said, "Honestly, the only thing I can tell you is it's brand new." It's brand new, and it is the the how did he say it? The perfect heart? No. Yes, the best heart I've ever seen in all of my years of doing transplant. And in that moment,
Wow.
like overwhelmingly joy, not joy, I don't know, tears
Just like
of,
confirmation that we did the right
and it
thing
was like,
and
oh
that
my
we kind of
gosh.
followed our gut, because I think a lot of people maybe could get pressured in just being like, okay, I'll take the heart. I might not ever get one again. And like,
Right.
I was comfortable living with the LVAD at this point. Like, if I needed to wait another year or two, I would. It wasn't like, oh, just give me the first heart that I can get. I think a lot of people are like that, but we were, I think Heavenly Father knew all along that this heart was to go to me. And he had kind of prepared us to reject that one, but did it in a way that it made it seem like we weren't making a bad decision,
Yeah, we were
or
just
we had,
Right.
confused. Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. We were like,
And
it
so,
was a genuine misunderstanding. And
Right.
they understood our understanding. We're like, oh my gosh, we won't decline another one. I'm so sorry. We totally misunderstood. And then they were like
Right.
okay with it. And anyways, just the confirmation of like, oh, this is the heart. Because what if we would have taken the other heart? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about it being high risk, all these
Right.
thoughts. But the
Yep.
probability of you getting a high risk heart is really high. And
yeah.
so the
Right.
fact that this heart and the way he said it is the best heart I've ever seen, it was just like, oh yeah, like the spirit is real. And like all of these lessons and these promptings and these things are real. And to like see the confirmation of that, and like we are just so grateful for this heart and this person, and like hope to one day meet her family.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
Yeah.
and we both just like, we feel like we have a ninth member of our family. Um, we, I look forward to hopefully meeting with them someday. And I guess more than anything, even if they don't want to meet, just telling them how grateful we are, because it wasn't just me that they saved. It was seven other people in my family, and, a mom and a dad and in-laws and cousins and stuff like that who appreciate this person's gift. And so, I know that if this happened to my son or daughter, and they were able to save someone's life, and my child had chosen to be a donor, like, I would be super proud of my kid. And more than anything, I just want that family to know, number one, like, I'll take really, really good care of this heart. And number two, you don't know how grateful we are as a family for your child, your brother or
Yeah.
sister, I guess, because it could technically be a girl, but I don't know too many
Mhm.
6'5" women out there, but who knows? Um, but yeah, so
husband,
that's the biggest
dad, we
thing, is
don't know
just
how old he
a
was.
lot of
Like,
people are like,
Yeah.
oh, it's complete now. It's like, it's not really complete until we have a chance to say thank you. And so hopefully, that if that's all it is, that I'm fine with that. And hopefully it kind of blossoms into a good relationship, or, um, but so anyways, we
Yeah.
just, in the world we live today, where you can take someone's heart out of a dead body basically and put it into a living body
Mhm.
and give them another 30, 40, 50 years of life, is pretty incredible. And it's pretty much sealed my testimony, as far as like just the intricacies of how a body works, in how, like, how little things can go wrong all the time, but yet we're all like living and breathing and doing well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. Obviously, I don't know that I would wish heart failure on anybody, but the lessons that we've learned and the experiences that we've had because of heart failure have been pretty incredible. So,
Wow. You guys, that was amazing. Thank you for your stories. Thank you for sharing your miracle. And please make sure that if you guys do end up meeting that person, that we can see online and stuff like that.
yeah, for sure.
Because that would
Oh,
oh
be
yeah.
that's
we'll
amazing.
have a full
So
YouTube team coming out to
I
meet
bet.
the family.
I bet. Oh, that's so awesome, guys. Thank you for taking the time to share. Thank you. Let me
Thank you for
stop
Thank
having
this.
you.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.